Hello and welcome to all the Hylians out there. I'm Joe here with me, my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And today we're discussing probably one of my favorite characters in Zelda lore, Linkle. Easily the most underrated Zelda character of all times, in my opinion. This is a character whom kind of changed things, in my opinion. Appearing for the first time and only time in Hyrule Warriors, Linkle was, from the word go, fairly controversial character. Mostly with some of the core traditional Zelda fans, as she was a female Link, which gender washing, race washing characters has become a fairly normal thing in recent years. And yet, Linkle came in light of that kind of history, but there wasn't the same sense of doom and gloom, in my opinion, that surrounded the character if you actually play the game. Rather than some weird Mary Sue character who automatically triumphs, she's actually shown from the word go to be quite the ditz. She is also quirky, brave, and selfless. More akin to the original real shield maiden of 20th century mythology / fantasy, Eowyn, Linkle is a character who has gotten her own core fan base, and rightfully so. In our first scene, we see her in pajamas, only to come hurrying out, where she is mocked by some local villagers, in a scene which actually showcases more just how foolish she is, and how funny, and adorable, let's be honest, where she says, "Oh, well, I'm the hero of time," basically the heiress to the spirit of the hero. And the other villagers mock her and say, "Yeah, right." She then says, "Well, okay, I've got this green outfit and I've got this golden compass, which once belonged to the hero." And they go, "Yeah, compass and an outfit, no." And then she says, "Well, my grandmother told me so." Everyone's grandmother tells them that. And Linkle remains undeterred, grabs her map, looking at it the wrong way, I might add, before rushing off down the wrong road to be exact, away from the castle, showing two things here. One is that she can't read a map and thus has a terrible sense of direction. And two, that she honestly has little in the way of fear. More in line with a Belle type character from Beauty and the Beast, she is not one to hesitate for a single second before throwing herself in the way of danger to save others. When you finally get to play as Linkle though, it comes with a few minor issues. It's clear that Aonuma and some members of the cast had no real liking for releasing such a character. She was a gimmick. And the thing is, the Koei Tecmo team obviously were struggling for characters, so decided to release such a character for fun. They put a lot of effort into her moveset and into the character. Aonuma decided, alongside Shigeru Miyamoto, to chuck in Link's crossbow training type of gameplay to an extent into this character, even as Aonuma struggled to deny that she was the heroine of time and disowned the character for a time, only to then walk back his words and then disown her again. The problem with Linkle is, rather than a stupid boot moveset, she should have been given a Master Sword moveset as an alternative. But they didn't want to do that sort of thing because it would mean actually acknowledging the character. So she was controversial even within the Nintendo staff. There were those who didn't want anything to do with the character, and this carried over to the fan base. In turn, though, there were those enthusiastic about trying to at least make something of the character. And arguably, Linkle ends up taking on the more powerful of the villains in Majora. That aside, Linkle afterwards would gain a niche fan base within the Zelda fan base. And as said, I think it's well merited. She truly is the female warrior archetype. Her relationship with her grandmother shows that she's also a bit of the daughter archetype, with her grandmother serving in the role of the crone. I think with Linkle charging out there and actually showing a lot of positive traits, without trying to sully the male characters, this is something that I think we can all agree puts Linkle in a different light than what some of the naysayers might say. Now, it was after Hyrule Warriors that some fans decided to ask Aonuma and other members of the Nintendo staff if we'd ever see Linkle again, and they said, "Sure, but maybe. We don't know. Maybe. We're thinking about a game down the road," which was code for never. Rather than a proper Hyrule Warriors 2, we got Age of Calamity, which honestly is just one of the greatest disgraces to ever hit the Zelda series, in my opinion, which was essentially a Breath of the Wild 2, with Tears of the Kingdom serving as a Breath of the Wild 3. Honestly, Tears of the Kingdom is itself a massive disgrace of a game. I have to ask you all, would a Linkle game have been worst? I would argue no. Giving a female character option with something like Breath of the Wild or one of its sequels, I think would have been a net positive. But I know we're not going to get that. Nintendo has said, instead, we're going to make Link more effeminate, rather than bring in Linkle. Aha! here's our solution. How is that a solution? You're basically feminizing Link, but you're not going all the way. If you don't have the guts to put in a female Link in the form of Linkle, then just keep Link as masculine as ever. At this point, you're insulting every player and every fan out there.
Because at the time, Linkle got caught up in politics. I think after a time, bringing her in a second time, she would have probably been better received.
She came out in 2016, but by 2019, she had gathered enough of a fan base. And by then, I think Breath of the Wild was already out, and people had had time to calm down. And once they realized she was not there to replace Link, they calmed down and went, it's not so bad. At least in the case of some. There are those who still fear a possible return of Linkle, to which I say, get over it. Linkle should be here to stay. Actually, we should have, in my opinion, at least one 2D Linkle game and one 3D main Linkle game. Only reason I argue for both 2D and 3D is for us to have a proper Linkle experience. This way, we get a Link to the Past style game and a main title. But on the other hand, I'm kind of glad she didn't appear in Tears of the Kingdom because that game's horrid. At least she only appeared in a good game. Hyrule Warriors is a great Zelda title. It is a great game. Why did you like Linkle? I liked her because I thought she was adorable, and I also thought that it was fascinating seeing a female heroine, and I thought this opens up, even if just for one game after this, the potential for something like Majora's Mask that breaks the mold and is slightly different, but at the same time, I'd want to see her stack up against someone like Ganon, just so that, we could have fun, and have Ganon of all people, maybe the one from Ocarina, shocked to see young girl, and to have him get the stuffing beaten out of him. It wouldn't simply be an adventure of Link and his harem girls. It would be an adventure where, in some ways, it'd be more like Studio Ghibli or Spirited Away, where we get to see wonder and love showcased more with the wonder side of fantasy fiction rather than the darker side. At the same time, I do think that the game would require some of the horror of Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess, and there's a lot of potential in terms of writing for Linkle in that regard. Maybe you could have her initially be afraid of the horror elements, as though she were a little girl, and she overcomes it. Heck, you could even throw in the one plot point of Le Fils Démon from a classic French literary story from 1,000 years ago, where her father or her grandmother are sick and dying, and she's going out to go and find them a cure, and at the same time maybe save the Prince of Hyrule. You have there, she has a personal reason, but she also has a duty.
Linkle, I really liked her. This might seem a little bit of a tangent, but looking at her, which she was criticized over politics, it allowed me to look at both sides of the aisle and look at games and whatnot that both sides would hate, and I'd figure out, I'm gonna try some of these games that either side hates to make up my own mind. And there were some games that I really enjoyed, far more than I expected. As for Linkle herself, being adorable like that is a departure from other characters in Zelda. Generally, I hate moe characters, but her, it's more adorable. The fact that she has no sense of direction.
It's a callback to 80s anime. Then there's the fact that she's a true blue action girl. I just like the possibilities for, like I said, Studio Ghibli. I almost think that it would have been great had they brought in Hayao Miyazaki to direct a Linkle game. Mm-hmm. I think that he would have captured the right tone for horror, if you said it in the child timeline, but also wonder and beauty. What do you think of that?
That would be awesome. And nothing would stop them from, you have a Link game, you have a side story game with her.
Yeah, that's why I said, you make a side game in 2D for her when you pump out the next main title, and then you do maybe 2 side Link titles, one main title, which is Linkle, and then you revert back to Link, and you do not release any further Linkle games. The only reason I say no further is because you've pumped out your main title, which is Linkle, and if it succeeds, then there's the blessings of making maybe 1 or 2 more. But if it doesn't succeed, no real loss to an extent. You could just jump over to the next Link game. And the idea is not to base the game in politics, but so much as to just offer a different perspective on Zelda. Now, I know some people will say, you criticized Tears of the Kingdom for just being a Studio Ghibli copycat. Now, what I'm suggesting is the tone, some of the visual creative decisions in the map and the layouts, that stuff, they kind of did wrong. When it comes to the character visuals and some of the decisions made, they made the wrong decisions in regards to a Ghibli-style game. That said, in terms of the maps and the layouts, they were completely correct when it comes to Breath of the Wild, at least. Tears of the Kingdom, no, but that's because I don't like the castles in the sky nonsense. I didn't even like it when Studio Ghibli did that.
They should have tried to put a setting much more similar to Howl's Moving Castle.
Well, I'm going to disagree and say I do think Mononoke was the right choice, but just copying the story and beat for beat was not. Like, the tone and the themes are fine. Something like a love story akin to that of Howl's Moving Castle and some of the wonder in there.
I was thinking some of the wonder.
But the thing is, Spirited Away has more wonder to it.
That's fair.
But as for the love story, I'd argue Howl's Moving Castle is one of the best love stories in Studio Ghibli's arsenal. It and Mononoke Hime. Maybe you need a male incarnation of Zelda of sorts who is like Howl, except younger. Linkle is an interesting character, and I honestly think that she has potential. I think they need a break. We don't, as the fans. They do, because this is not the same writing staff as 23 years ago, or even 5 to 6 years ago. Something has changed within the studio, and not for the better. Do not seem to know how to write Zelda anymore. They do not seem to know how to write Link anymore. So that's our thoughts on Linkle. Honestly, I really would have liked a game with her. She is such a great character, but we're never going to see a game with her. But tell us what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if you do, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Link taking down Ganon for the last time.